Yeah.
No supplies, completely outnumbered, completely surrounded, and no support whatsoever, and basically fought until they didn't have anything left to fight with.
Yeah, but the like kill to death ratio is ridiculous. But yeah, no, things have really soured between Israel and Ireland. I mean, Israel pulled its embassy out of Ireland, I believe, after the boycotts that Ireland jumped on board with. And I think Ireland also recognized Palestine as a nation state.
On the flip side, at least they're not particularly fond of Ukraine, so you just gotta, it depends.
It's interesting you say that it's, you see them as a wealthy country. And one of my takeaways, I've been a few times except from Northern Ireland to Ireland, is that I didn't see great wealth there. I didn't see poverty, but I didn't see great wealth. Interesting, the lifestyles there.
Where in Ireland?
In Ireland, yeah, in the Republic of Ireland.
Yeah, it's sort of, I think it's a little, it's got that, it does have that sort of British sentiment where it's not about flaunting your wealth. It's about old money tax benefits. You find a lot of people with money and said that you cannot really kind of keep them well. I think that's kind of the it's not to be ostentatious.
The GDP per capita often is near the top. In comparison, and because of its tax structure, it is a tax haven for private as well as nations dumping money into there. A lot of people, I find this funny, because you and I have been together a long time, and I always joke there's a Iberian conspiracy theory, you should look it up, that the ruling class is all Irish, and that somehow people just can't figure out how they just blame everybody else except the Irish.
Yes, we talked about that. No, I remember, yeah. It connects to like every president.
Yes. And every big time bank is literally their money is parked in Ireland.
7 years.
A lot of the major U.S. corporations and especially technology.
Apple's.
They all Ireland, because Ireland's the only English-speaking nation state left in the EU, so it's and then the corporate tax rate. And the Irish are also extremely well educated. Like a very high percentage. And they, if you get your DNA test done it goes to bed.
This is John Kitover, Congressman-elect in the 16th District in Illinois. That's Peoria, Rockford, Bloomington, Quincy. Other areas in Illinois is Central Corridor. I'm running for your Congressman. I'm the Ben Mendelsohn Deep State Patriots Trump.
Switzerland, Singapore.
You fill it with yourself or it dies.
I don't think that even the U.S. is up there in the
I like to think of the Irish as the Laotians of Europe.
You fill it with yourself or it dies.
I think they're getting closer to
this
the
pummeling energy
of Ireland.
Mitzvah stam. Quintessential mitzvah.
Bottles when you land on the airplane.
No, the one where
just as the
Ireland, it's Ireland before they invented whiskey, and it's like wine
quality of discernment.
And then
the
Irish scientists are in there, and one guy's like, I just invented everything called whiskey, and they start drinking it, and 20 minutes later, it's just fucking.
That is a hound's life too.
But I definitely didn't see poverty when I was there. I just didn't see stupid poor areas. And I mean, I think there was definitely classes there, but it just didn't appear anything. I don't see why you would have any reason why you have to listen to them.
Areas.
Well, because you have more than one of them and they've got guns, but in 2010, there was a law passed.
Yeah, North Dublin,
They should stay away
still a
from the
little
police
rough,
now.
but
There was a
Yeah,
law passed in
it's not,
2021 called the William Thornberry
you're
National
not gonna
Defense
see,
Authorization Act.
like,
The school year 2021,
scene
it's
or like a,
spent, it's
whatever that
legal
is in
for them to
Philadelphia.
not, or they have official identification.
That's what I thought. We need to do some research because I
What is
don't
the story about the feminine that Ireland and Muslims help them? There's some historical relations
Yes,
too.
the king of the, or whatever, some sultan or some king somewhere,
in this that would be the chief
sent
of all.
multiple ships of food from England, turned them away under threat of war. Actually,
and
and they sent it in, although he also helped smuggle food through some other channels, but it wasn't enough to help the country. There's a couple of the places that tried to really help Ireland at that time, and England just kept a grip on it and just would not allow it, which is why you have more Irish people outside of Ireland than inside of Ireland.
well, the Fox, yeah, it was a Ottoman, so.
Rights, and the moment became a precedent for unilateral executive military
I
action.
can't remember his name either.
Abdul Majid. But he, but yeah, like Ireland had,
Concerts there in the UK.
Ireland had,
One of the songs was like, "Do you want your country?"
not quite twice as many people living in Ireland in the early 19th century. That they had.
Is McGregor's clan Irish or Scottish? UFC.
Conor McGregor?
He's Irish.
He's Irish.
Oh, I heard his clan was fighting
The
Irish
Scarlet
people.
Pimpernel from 1934, a British comic. A noble woman discovers her husband is the Scarlet
it's
Pimpernel,
possible
a
there's
vigilante who
McGregor's
rescues aristocrats from the
Scotland as
blade
well,
of the
but
goat.
usually
For a movie to be
well,
made
yeah, I
that
mean,
long
Nick
ago
and
and still
Mac
make me crack up,
in
I
Scotland,
think is a sign that
I
you know
think
it's
Mac,
good.
you're more
It's a
likely
little
to be
outrageous and a little outlandish,
more of a
but boy,
Highland.
is it a great
And
comedy.
Nick is
So I would highly recommend that.
more
And around the 6-minute mark,
I don't know his particular lineage. Like you
The
had
mysterious figure of the
a
Scarlet
lot of
Pimpernel, with his
Scots
dual identity and daring
lowlands
escapades, laid the
in the
groundwork
Border
for many
regions of
superheroes
England
who were
that
created decades later. His secret identity, hidden beneath the guise of a mild-mannered aristocrat, showcased the power of anonymity and the deception in the pursuit of justice. This notion of a secret identity became the cornerstone for superhero mythology, influencing characters like Batman, Zorro, Superman, The Shadow, Spider-Man, and countless others who would emerge in the following decades. With the Pimpernel's ability to outsmart his adversaries while maintaining a facade of diplomacy, inspired creators to give their heroes similar strategies, protecting their loved ones and maintaining the
and also there was just a lot of conflict with the
Are you an actor too? Playing out some part in a strange world?
I guess the banjos all that stuff was used with African slaves enslaved people
But Black Irish is different. Black Irish are Spanish? They
Yeah.
come into Ireland?
Yeah, it's
a
the
mix.
Irish the Irish genetics is really interesting because you do a really early wave, like even like Egyptian and stuff coming in there. They're finding, which is also part of the oral history. And then you also have a large Basque component, kind of Western hunter-gatherer, pig Western hunter-gatherers. And they moved up to Basque region up into
Paul, this is the
Ireland.
gentleman who rescued
And then-
our mom. Paul Chopin,
Furthermore,
Chief
you have-
Agent
yeah,
of the
you have,
Committee of National Security. Sir Percy Blakeney.
I think it was around the Muslim
It is a
invasion.
pleasure.
You had the Catholics.
I gotta show you.
Spain
It's all mine.
into Ireland. And then there was wars. You also had the
I must
Spanish
apologize for
Armada
formating
in
this.
the time of
It was next to
Elizabeth I,
impossible
so
finding a
that ended
carriage.
up
Simply,
in Ireland.
if everyone isn't so equal in your new society that no one wants to do the driving anymore.
This is great.
I take it, sir, that you do not approve of our new society. Approval, sir, in my opinion, demands the attainment of perfection.
Different rooms.
And in that sense, you rather overrate the charm of your society.
Brings change in
Face the one thing,
minorities.
it does seem monstrously ill-dressed for any society, even the new one. Sinkmaker tailors have betrayed you. Betrayed us. We pride ourselves on our French tailors. Us fish with their family. Such solid workmanship, not tolerated in London for one tiny instant. Look at here, sir. That is limp for revenge. I ask you, or the sorry cut of this sleeve. No.
The minority outnumbers
No, sir. If this is the best your tailors can do, 'twould serve you better to send them to the guillotine. We shall send our king instead, and exalt our tailors. More's the pity. Then your tailors will rule the land, and no one will make the clothes. So much for French fashion. And what is it you Frenchies say? Touche. You see, I'm a bit of a poet. And you did not know it.
It's literally talks about the numbers.
You did not know it.
I didn't think we had to explain what a minority and a majority.
Oh, go ahead, please.
Well, if you have more than 50%, you have a majority. If you have less, then you have a minority.
If you can find something miles away,
And then if the largest group is less than 50%, you would call it a plurality.
Now, in the majority that I'm speaking of, which are those that are very few in numbers, but they run the system that manage really a minority status. So therefore, if you're looking at people in a situation of finance, then the majority who has the most money and status and have the system of punishment all themselves. Yeah.
Who would that be? Like, could you not talk in general? Just be specific.
Okay. Here in the United States, we have the legislatures. And the legislature body really, by numbers, they are by numbers, they are
My mind is quite made up.
But by the fact that they write the laws, create the laws, and manage all of the population, the 340 million people, we can
they were elected by the people to represent the group of people. I think you're confusing a lot of terms. I think what you mean is like there's a ruling class, and then you're referring to, but you're also referring to the ruling class as the minority, which, I mean, it's just very, very odd the way you're framing all of them.
We must rescue the detainee.
I understand. It sounds odd, but
You
we
can
can
be
look
far more
at
valuable to us if you
the
keep your position
Constitution
and continue to work
of
with
the
the
United States, the federal
You show
level,
to us what on earth are you
that
talking about?
five members.
By all
That's
of
like
them,
senators,
what you were about to hear,
and then you have the
not even
35,
Marguerite.
as far as in the House, that's 535 people yet.
Correct. Those are elected officials that represent the two senators, represent each of the.
I don't understand that.
Okay. Well, I'm still getting caught up, and maybe I shouldn't. Maybe I should just let you continue to bastardize the meaning of minority and majority. But no, a minority. I honestly, like, just go on. It's getting late, and I don't have the patience to correct you on basic.
Congratulations to Sir. As always, everything planned down to the last detail.
So if you look at the 535,
Only this time,
yeah,
you will go on thing. There is no way out of this island except
with people that I speak with,
And if you get
tend to think of themselves as a minority right, and numbers are a majority. But they think of themselves as a minority when they look at a system that's in place. They feel powerless. So they seem to think to themselves, for the most part, that they're a minority. Really, they are a majority. We know by the math. I see what you're saying. But it's the mindset. So when you look at the mindset,
So somebody's a mental minority?
yes, psychologically, you can feel that you're a minority as an individual, but as a group coming together, then you find your mind as being a majority will change, which we've done plenty of times, just over here in the United States. Civil rights and protests that have actually changed the Constitution over years, because the first 10, as you know, are the Bill of Rights. If you follow the 11, 12, 13, all the way up to the 27, those have been shaped by actions of those who feel that they're a minority in the system. They're really a majority by numbers.
Give us an amendment that you feel that happened.
Which abolished slavery, basically the Civil War, in which, of course,
So Garrett, let me ask you this. So you said that the people are the ones that changed that. Doesn't Congress have to vote and have two-thirds majority and have 3/4 of the states to ratify it? So I don't think. I don't know. I'm trying to understand where you're coming from, because what you're saying doesn't really make a lot of sense.
Okay, let's look at where you, if I'm following you correctly, you're saying that you look at some of these amendments, for the most part, it was Congress doing their part to bring this about, but really,
Every state had to pass it. By state had to pass it. Okay, that's why I said take an amendment. We could talk about booze, we could talk about voting rights. I mean, it still had to go through first the chambers of Congress, but then 3/4 of our states.
Correct. So Congress has to pass it with 2/3, and then the states have to ratify it with 3/4.
I always like
Can you give me an example of an amendment, Kerry, where that didn't?
English. And there's stupid sense of fair play.
I said
Exactly so.
people brought that
My dear Sugar,
into play, which
which is why I think in your case, fair play,
the action to
to leave your fate in the hands of Robespierre and his
deals with the
Take my
challenges
way.
that the system, if I want to say system, that's Congress and all, felt
I shall need his style this
government
garment to persuade the guard of the causeway that I am citizenship
started the tradition
Sweet
of
men.
running for one or two terms.
My darling headmaster, I promised Armand that I
If
could
I'm not
bring
mistaken, it
Louise
was,
safely back.
Not this time.
because you're right, it is getting late.
I
I
go
should have
embarrass
started
your
those.
face.
But you had,
Perhaps in this small way I may
Roosevelt
atone for my
ran for
mistakes.
president
yes, and that's what
a lot later than Washington.
yes.
Your wardrobe.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, that's like
So
a lot
what I'm
later.
saying is, a lot of
This is
these
not the road
amendments
that I
have
was
to,
loath to
once you
take.
get to the first 10,
The honor, my dear
a lot of
Armand,
those
is all
votes
yours.
that followed was all due to
Godspeed, my
some
friend.
type of action, either by the people or president, or even some of them were just policies and procedures, so that, you have some way of knowing how the system is going to handle itself and manage things. So you got the first 10 Bill of Rights, which really point a lot to the revolutionary part of it, of not having kings, not having certain things happen that the framers had dealt with, that came out of Britain and in that
The
war. So
Scarlet
that first
Pimpernel.
these are your
I
rights.
suppose
Hold on, Garrett,
Baronet.
let's slow down. So are you familiar with the Federalist Papers and the Anti-Federalist Papers?
Those
Somewhat, but go ahead.
seek you.
Okay, so a lot of people are unaware that when the Constitution was first written, the intention was to not have a Bill of Rights. It was old folks that decided to say, hey, you're not going to get this ratified if we don't secure the rights for the people. And so I don't know if a lot of people understand the history of like how the Bill of Rights even got inserted in it. When it was originally drafted, there was no bill.
They seek it there.
Okay, but we do have the Bill of Rights, correct? We do. Since we have the Bill of Rights and we have the 10 that are in place, and I can understand, the different things to get to where we are, the 10. But when you follow that little trail of historical actions by citizens or by presidents that actually challenge the system, Congress had to go through
now we
their
got to go help
processes.
people customize and save hundreds with Liberty Mutual.
Rose up enough or brought enough pressure on them to break that change. Now that's why I say the middle mindset concept of being a minority is what, in the 60s and even before that, the mindset was a minority mindset. Majority by numbers, as you said, once you break over 50, and it's 51, you're a majority. But the concept as far as systems, as far as federal, as far as state legislatures, and how the framers put it together, we don't have enough people understanding the power we have once we come together to make that number worth something. If you can follow me. So therefore, even though we are large in number, our mindset is there because a lot of things.
You said we are stronger.
The we are citizens of the United States of all different walks of life feel that they are in a mind of minority status. Don't understand historically we brought about a change. You only need enough. You only need that 51, as you said. You only need enough. If it's 30% of the population, that can bring a change. So, in the 60s, and even before that, when things were really black and white, when I listened to other historical, like you all were talking about Irish and different changes and how these systems, because I see it as everything's a system in some way. If you're living under something, even a speed limit is a system. So I listen for that, and when I hear it, I say, wow, this is great. Because I hear that what happened there is the same thing happened there, and historically, as humans, our behavior, we're always going to be caught up in something that could either splinter us, tear us apart, put a class in it, put a race in it, something that always keeps us broken apart. So that creates that minority mindset, that powerless mindset. Until you really, like I was listening to, what you all were saying, I could see, well, darn, that type of, once you get past that, you bring change to a country, to a people, or just citizens, and that same pattern is always working out in other situations. There's a conqueror's mindset, and then there's a liberator. A liberator's mindset. So I got to look at
politics.
Who are the liberators in
Politics.
2025?
I'm running for Congress.
That's a good question. I'm still looking and kind of seeing it, but there have been liberators throughout, but I would say here in 2025, it hasn't been well defined because things have changed.
It's a communication strategy.
Are splintered, so to where it's hard to find any particular one. I couldn't find one at the moment to say as far as citizens here in the United States and saying, there's liberation. I do believe that at some point
politics. I'm running for Congress. It's a
the social
communication
network
strategy.
and the lifelines of those here in the country will start to break down. And at some point, the thing that we fear will probably wind up, being the norm.
What do we fear?
Because
Well, I guess socialism is probably one that has been fought for a long time. Has been hindered for a long time.
Do you think socialism would be an improvement over what we're doing today?
It's a mixture, because when I think about it, in my 20 years in the military, I see that system sitting inside America. That some things are yet to be seen, because even if you look back at some things that you look at in the sense of, let's see, when the bubble popped and they had the Obamacare, there were good things to that, but in the long term, there were some bad things in it. If you look at
Gary, let me ask you this. I just want to get this conversation a little more focused. Do you think the U.S. would be better off if the Jews didn't have so much control of the U.S. and so much influence of the U.S.?
Let the conquered be at the mercy of the conqueror.
I believe in anything like that. I think I focus more on the existing system that in place that deals with the Constitution. There's a lot I don't know about as far as coming to the various rights.
I'm a reader of Don Quixote. In person. Down by law.
I mentioned it earlier. I would then take and change the 27. That one right there changed the behavior. The 535. So that's what I would do with the magic. That means I would bring those data. U.S. back to the state.
Again,
if you think about it, every one of us
doesn't have a rainbow.
Except for 535 members who, as you say, on the surface looks good. They can't pay themselves until the new class come in. If you want to put it that way.
Let me shed light on something.
Please. Yes.
Do you know what it costs to live like around the Capitol Hill area, you know, what it costs to rent.
I lived in Virginia.
No, I'm not saying on the hill.
I lived up in I understand how expensive it is. And I can see that, but here's the thing.
You are at a dead end.
Yeah, really Don Quixote.
There's no reason for
Do you remember years ago, about 10 years ago, I was making a film? You were just an old man, I found.
They don't have to get a license for
Yeah, right, but then I found that out, and I thought, this guy has a weird face. It's the kind of face I'd use now to sell insurance.
That who you are great bits in DC. They're scared to think.
Wait, but you changed two different things. Are you concerned about the amount that they're, because that amendment has to do with raising their pay. Are you concerned with the amount that they're getting paid and whether they raise their salaries? Or are you concerned about who or the source of the funds, whether it's coming out of the state budget or the budget? Which part of that amendment has concerned you?
I emphasize again, later, Gauche. Every minute knowing you has been a horror show waste of time.
The union, it's significant $175,000.
You're have a little knife that you're going to try to stab me with. No, I know I'm too late.
So, out of our state budget, which is $1 million, the poor representatives don't even add up to $1 million either.
Come closer.
And the two senators will
Hold on a second. Before we go there, I just want to read this. So the congressional salaries have always been paid by the federal government, not by individual states. From the beginning of the U.S. under the Constitution in 1789, members of Congress were paid from the U.S. Treasury. Article 1, Section 6 of the Constitution. The federal government collects taxes and appropriates funds through the annual budget process, which includes salaries for members of the House and the Senate. States have never directly paid congressional salaries, even though senators were originally chosen by the state legislature before the 17th Amendment. So even before the 27th Amendment, members of Congress were always federally paid, not state funded. Do you have any information that counters what I just read to you? When do you believe that the 27th Amendment, the language of the 27th Amendment was originally proposed? That Congress was paid by the states?
Has anyone noticed that bright light approaching gunfire?
Prior to 17, I don't want to get the year.
You've got two left.
Like I said, I don't have the material to tell you at this point by memory, which is not always the sharpest tool. But prior to that, it wasn't much of being paid as much as they considered to be a public service that they would do without paying extra.
I heard you say that prior to the ratification of the 27th Amendment, that it was your contention that members of Congress were paid by the states.
We're not going back.
They received funding, my understanding.
Okay, got it. And can you please show me a source for that?
Okay. I will have to go back and dig up my material so I can get that. But if you look at it, a lot of their service was without pay, because they didn't have the status and they were in a position of where, they didn't really need much money. That's just the way that system was at that time. When James Madison introduced it, they didn't get it ratified.
Do you know the language of the 27th Amendment?
Yes, I've read it, sir. Which is what the lady was reading.
Yeah, so the language of the 27th Amendment, it doesn't speak to who's going to pay it. What it speaks to is limiting Congress to not voting to give themselves a pay increase. So it allows for the for the incoming Congress to be able to have a say in that. So why? I'm just confused where you got the idea that the 27th Amendment does any of the things that you're suggesting, which you're making the claim that it changed it, where they're now federally funded, where you believe they were once state funded, and I just read to you that they've never been state funded, ever, in our history.
Also, I had a question. As you want the states to pay their salaries, what about the approximate 8,000 people that work as staff on the Hill? Who should be paying the staff salaries?
Abby, we should fire all those people.
That's a different conversation. You look at that one website they have, it's the Instagram account, Dear White Staffers. It's pretty bad. I don't know if you know about that one. But I'm just curious. I mean, that's, if you do look at an expense of Congress, that's the expense, is the staffers. So Gary, are you suggesting that they're paid by the state?
Low-hanging fruit would be, as low-hanging fruit would be, the 27th Amendment doesn't speak about the staffers, it speaks about Congress. So therefore, those are the ones that I would be focusing on. And
so
that's what we should focus on.
Who pays the staff?
They'll continue to get paid, because guess what? They are being paid now without any amendment or anything in the Constitution speaking about their pay. So when I was
who's going to pay? Who should pay them?
But that's good. Let's put that on the back burner, because it's almost like anything else. It's not a topic. But if you want to make it a topic, I would ask you then, what do you think? Because I've only focused on one thing, and that's the 27th that actually speaks to a particular 535 people. But to bring something else onto the table, I have no
that's the greatest expense.
Except to continue it the way it is. Yeah.
Well, the greatest expense in running Congress in those two chambers are each member of Congress and definitely the Senate have large staffs.
Understood.
So I'm asking you who should pay for the transportation back and forth to the district that they usually go every week. Usually weekends. Who should be reimbursing? Should that be the states also, or is that okay that comes out of the federal?
Oh, yes, it should be. It should be the states, because as you mentioned about the salary of 175, that all states may not be able to afford that. Some may be able to afford more. Well, that's just part of the negotiation you have with your state legislatures and governors. That's how you put yourself into the budget. So you get that 175. Say if you're, Virginia and I'm North Carolina. Once that rolls back into a state, then I would be speaking to my state legislatures and governors and talking about how I'm going to do my best for their interests. And they'll look at me and say, hey, I'm sorry, 175 isn't, we're not able to do that, then let's talk about it. Because I'm working. It's my job to work for you. It's the same thing when we all go to work. We have to produce to get that paycheck. So therefore, you may go back to Virginia and they may say, hey, great job. You've been doing great. You're going to get 180. I mean, I get like 140. I don't know. the governor may say you don't definitely deserve as much as I do, and I may get less than that. But here's the thing, I'm there for the same purpose that George Washington was speaking about. Public service. A public servant. So just like I have for the military, not do it for the money. It's public service like there's so many other public service providers and companies, organizations. We even have not-for-profit. A lot of people do it not for the money. Therefore, why is that really a key thing? If you want to roll back that 27th and bring their paycheck back to the states, the money and the position and the impact you have on everybody's lives shouldn't be about the money, but it is about the money. Have been about the money, and that's my way of seeing how James Madison really, for him, it was about the money.
But who pays all the expenses to run Congress? You're still not answering that question. Who's going to pay?
The taxpayers.
Well, no, but is it coming out of this? Who's paying for the House? The doorkeepers of the House, the sergeant at arms of the House. Who should be paying all those salaries? The states or
Hold on. I think we're all asking the wrong questions, because I've now gone to this website, the hire and fire .com thing that he's referencing, and I'm reading this, and here's the facts. The website itself misunderstands what the 27th Amendment is, and so the 27th Amendment, it just says no law varying the compensation of the service of the senators and representatives shall take effect until the election of representatives shall have intervened. And so what you're asking to do is to repeal it. It's actually going to do the opposite of what you want, because if it's repealed, what you do in repealing that is allow Congress to be able to vote to give themselves a raise immediately with no delay or accountability to voters. So I think what you're asking for, either you just literally don't understand what the 27th Amendment is, or you do and you're using this trickery because what you really want is for Congress to be able to vote for themselves to get an immediate pay raise, because that's all the administration, that's all that this amendment does, is speaks to their ability to give themselves a pay increase. So Gary, let's break this down. What is it you actually want? If you genuinely want to repeal it, you must be in support of Congress voting to give themselves an immediate pay raise. Is that what you're looking for?
Well, as with most things, that when we start reading, if we went by just a little bit, you can make all kinds of assumptions, but I think I stated in the beginning, and through everything that I've ever put out, and for the material that I've created as content that I've shared with plenty of people, it goes to the one principal thing I said earlier, the 27th Amendment, which allows them to pay themselves from the federal treasury. We bring their payrolls back to the state.
Well, hold on, no, Gary, this is where you're misunderstanding. Before and after the 27th Amendment, the pay was coming from the U.S. Treasury. It never came from the states. You're making that detail up in your mind. That's never been a reality. And all the 27th Amendment is whether or not Congress can give themselves an immediate raise, which is what you seem to, you support them giving themselves an immediate raise, because repealing the 27th Amendment, that's the impact that does. So let me ask you this. Do you want Congress to be able to vote to give themselves an immediate raise?
So therefore, anything I've said, you've been spinning it to try to say something I've never said.
I'm reading the website.
Let me try again. I do not want them being paid and paying themselves from the federal treasury. That is the bottom principle as to what the whole purpose is.
But they got paid by the U.S. Treasury. No, well, hold on. But hold on. Just point of order. The fact remains they got paid from the U.S. Treasurer prior to the amendment and after the amendment. And so what you're talking about in repealing it doesn't do any of that. Whether you repeal it or keep it, their salaries are going to come from the U.S. Treasurer either fucking way. And that's the way it's been the entire fucking...
I'll be coming back to you with the evidence right now. Like I said, I'll have to get the evidence because I understand from my interpretation of what I've read and studied that they did not get paid at all from the federal treasury. Because
so why don't you look that up? What, like, these are just
I'm not going to
facts.
look it up because it's kind of late.
These are just facts.
Okay, that's fine.
It's 300 years of facts, 250 years of facts.
It's okay. It's okay. It's okay. I get it. So, the bottom line to the end game, such as in any type of game, I guess, is to bring change or win, is that the 27th Amendment, as it exists today, allows them to give their raise, which they haven't done in a long time. And that's really good because it would be bad to do it at a time when everybody else is kind of having these bubble pops and COVID and all. But they haven't done it in a while. So anytime they need to or want to or have in the past, they go to the federal treasury. They should be getting it from the state, talking to their state legislatures, talking to their governments.
That's never happened in U.S. history, period.
Well, that's true. That's why you can think of anything after the 10th, the 11th, and 13th. Those things weren't U.S. history either until they became part of the U.S. history. This would be part of U.S. history.
You know what?
Just like
I think you're just a double talking idiot. Sorry.
No, that's okay. That's okay. That's fine. Not offended by anything. I've been around the planet for a little bit, so I can't be insulted.
Well, let me just make this clear. I posted your website so everybody could go read for themselves what you guys are asking for, and what he's supporting is a repeal of the 27th Amendment. He's stating here that the reason they want to repeal it is he wants the states to be where the Congress gets funded from, which repealing the 27th Amendment would not do. In fact, the only thing repealing the 27th Amendment would allow for is for Congress to give themselves an immediate raise. So that's what you stand for.
How do we bring? No, I'm glad you're asking because I don't mind going a little deeper in the rabbit hole. Okay, so how is it that, or how would you say most of the states end up, let's say, take marijuana let's use marijuana. When California started it out for medicinal purposes, right? Most states were sitting back just watching. As soon as they got it passed, then you had a few more states, and now we have, out of 50 states, probably 45 states that have municipal use. And then it came up to, I think Washington State came for the recreational, and everybody was sitting there waiting. As soon as they did it, then we have a certain number of states with both, not just medicinal, but or medical, but then you have also recreational. Well, the same thing has happened in a lot of things. You have these states sitting back and they're testing and they're waiting and they see if it goes through. So how do you change or repeal? Well, it would take one state, any state, the first state, that once they understand that what the 27th Amendment allows their own representatives to do, is to say, we want, let's say if I'm in North Carolina, get enough people in North Carolina to say, you represent us, you work for us, you say it, put your money where your mouth is. Right now you're paying yourself out the federal. Why don't you let us? Now what representative is going to say, I'm sorry, but I get paid $175. Let's negotiate. Okay, let's negotiate. Right now you're paying yourself out of the federal. You work for us. Bring your paycheck back home. Now this is North Carolina. Everybody else is sitting back kind of watching, saying, wait a minute. They have their representatives, 2 senators and however many House members. Let's see if this thing really works.
Gary, hold on. Who told
Yes.
you? Who told you? What voice is whispering in your head that the 27th Amendment allows for is what allowed for the Congress to get paid for the U.S. Treasury? I mean, you clearly ignored the Constitution itself, which established that in the very beginning. I'm just looking for, give me one shred of support for your case that they were ever paid by the states. Just one shred of evidence. Because I can show you, I can read to you the Constitution and I can read to you the 27th Amendment. And I don't think you're even speaking to it.
But you haven't read anything about the arguments of that bill when it was introduced to the framers, correct? Have you read that?
I can read I can read it out loud to you if you'd like me to. But my question is, yes, because the Constitution is what gave the power to the Treasury to be able to pay the senators and the congressmen, and this happened hundreds of years ago, and that's the way that it's happened even prior and post ratification of the 27th Amendment. So what you're saying just has no basis in fact, and if you think that I'm wrong in stating that, just show me one piece of evidence that speaks contrary to what I just said. Because I could show you the Constitution and I could show you the 27th Amendment.
And I never said that you were wrong. I said I will come back to you with the evidence that you're speaking to. But you're saying, hey, at this moment in time, provided now. And I said I will come back to you. Now we could stop the conversation and move on.
But who told you?
And I'll come back.
Who told you? Where did you come up with this idea that the states would pay for congressmen and senators? Where did you get that? What put that idea in your head? Because the Constitution didn't do it. No law did it. I'm just wondering. There's no historical precedent for it. I'm just wondering what voice whispered that into your head. I'm just curious.
There's a debate between George Washington and James Madison that put the thought in my head that, interesting. George Washington actually tried to convince him that they should follow the same principle that George Washington did as far as working for free. But at that time, they could work for free because, again, the system allowed them to be able to not worry about money. So if you listen to the arguments and check the arguments, then you should understand that, okay. But James Madison, and you know how politicians are, they moved, I say they moved, only based on arguments, that they moved the money into the federal treasury. Even back then, it wasn't ratified. Matter of fact, that's where Gregory Watson came upon it. And that's why he did a
Gary, Gary, it sounds like you like the Constitution. It sounds like that you may have read parts of it at some point in your life. My question is, are you familiar with Article 1, Section 6, Clause 1?
Please, read, share.
It says, and this is Article 1, Section 6, Clause 1. The senators and representatives shall receive compensation for their services to be ascertained by law and paid out by the Treasury of the United States. And I'm just asking you, show me something similar to that changed that where the states had paid. Because there's no historical evidence that I can find anywhere that supports your.
You would find it in the arguments, and that's why I'm saying that the idea, which you did ask, and I did answer. You asked several times, and I said, and I even asked you earlier, I said, have you read the arguments back then? That's where it comes from. It's the argument.
Was this the losing argument?
As a matter of fact, you'll find out that.
Was it the losing argument? Was it the losing argument? Because I again, you made the claim
that the states used to pay it, and there's no evidence of that. Like you're just factually incorrect about that.
I will bring that to you. I know I owe that to you, so I will bring it back to you.
Well, point me in the right direction. Tell me where I can go besides the Constitution.
Should I ask you a question?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay.
It also, just to remind you historically, that the Congress, the First Continental Congress, met in the Pennsylvania State House, and it became a rift between the state of Pennsylvania and the federal government because it was a burden and an expense that the Pennsylvania State House didn't want to endure. So it was a conflict from the beginning that it needs to stay as a federal expense and not a burden on the state. And you can go visit that when you go to Independence Hall, which was the Pennsylvania State House.
So may I ask you that question? Okay. Although there have been laws or things that are put in place, do you believe that at some time things have to be changed? Or would you say once it's in stone, it's in stone?
Oh, I'm saying that you can always try to make an amendment. The process to do that is to get 2/3 of the Congress and 3/4 of the states to ratify it. But you're now evading the question because the thing is you are advocating. You're this activist for repealing the 27th Amendment, yet you don't even understand what the 27th Amendment is.
If you go with me for.
But I'm going to answer your question because the 18th Amendment clearly was repealed by the 21st Amendment, correct?
Indeed.
So, okay, so there is always the Constitution lives and breathes, and if it's the will of the electorate to change the law, then just as you just heard, if 2/3 of Congress and 3/4 of the state houses agree, as they did when they brought about the repealing of the 18th Amendment with the 21st Amendment, it's an example of it.
May I ask you a question?
Yeah.
I've heard you say it's the will of the electorate. Is that a true statement? Electors or is that a true statement or is it the will of the people?
I mean the electorate. The electorate are the people that elect the members of the government. The electorate are the people. I didn't say electors, I said electorate.
So the will of, I've always kind of looked at it as the will of the people overrides the positions that
the electorate is the people.
No,
I'll use a different. The will of the nation. Is that better?
Yes, thank you.
Change the law. The will of the nation was to change the law and repeal the 18th Amendment with the 21st Amendment. So yes, the law can change. Plessy versus Ferguson was overturned with Brown versus Board. I mean, we have it in our judiciary, we have it in our legislature, we have a president that signs an executive order that overturns an executive order of the prior administration. It can happen in all three branches of government. Yes. But it doesn't, with respect to legislation or with an amendment to the Constitution, it has to go through the will of the nation, and it's 2/3 of Congress and 3/4 of the state houses.
Yes, okay. So therefore, just riding on that powerful statement there, will of the nation, will of the people, however anyone wants to word it, but that will of we as citizens can bring on change, because that's what we do. But when I go back to the question of if it's in stone, does that mean it can't change. Well, we already figured out it can change. So therefore, if any one state decide by the will of their citizens that they want their employee payroll to come from their state treasury, and they push that towards their employee, that would change the whole entire mindset of how their employees would work for them, just like we all are working.
So, Abby, check this out. So I figured out where he gets this Gregory Watson fella, and the history of this. Which, by the way, like, I wish Gregory Watson was alive and well to come in this room to be able to tell Gary that he doesn't understand what the hell he's talking about. But
May I pause there? I have actually, with them, meaning just a lot.
Well, you would pick him in the fucking room, because here's the thing. So here's the whole story. So in 1982, when Gregory Watson was going to University of Texas, he wrote a paper arguing that the amendment was still technically alive. It was proposed 200 years ago, and his professor gave him a C, and he was pretty adamant that he was right, that it was still alive, because only 6 states had ratified it back then. They didn't have the 3/4 of the states to ratify it, and so it became a thing. And then Congress took it up and started talking about it, and then the states one by one went and ratified this. All of this stuff is true. Like, this Gregory Watson kid was a student that looked at the Constitution, said that, hey, there's no reason to believe this amendment is dead. It just hasn't been ratified. And then he restoked the flames, and 200 years after it had been proposed, he gets it passed. Where Gary gets all of this stuff wrong, though, is that what he believes the 27th Amendment does. And Gregory Watson has no argument that supports any of the things that Gary.
Actually, as I said, I did track him down, because that's part of my, like I said, I've been at this for almost close to 20 years.
Okay, show me a quote from him that agrees with you. Show me a quote from him that agrees with you.
In our conversation, and again, in our conversation, I did discuss with him the point that I'm bringing to you. Now, it wasn't a agree or disagree. He simply, because I was asking how he went about it. One person, one kid, pushing an idea, not giving up, and then it becomes a 27th.
But yeah, but he was right. He was right. You're incorrect. Gary, I agree. This kid was brilliant. He read the Constitution. He saw this amendment that had stalled to get the momentum. He challenged the idea that somehow it was dead, and 200 years later it got passed. But the problem is, you're taking what that guy argued, and then you have this deep misunderstanding of what the 27th Amendment is, and you're calling for the repeal of it. Like, this guy called to get it ratified, you're calling to get it repealed, and you can't even speak to what the fuck it is.
I'm not sure if I need to, because it was already read, and I think most individuals, based on what they heard if they were in the room, when it was read, it basically says that you can go read it, they can read it for themselves as well. And you've read it, and you've also stated what you believe it's about. I said on the surface, that's what it seems like. But now as you go deeper and deeper in the rabbit hole, you start understanding the arguments. You start understanding that although Gregory Watson had his purpose and reason, I have mine based on my research.
No, so it's not your misunderstanding. It's based on your misunderstanding. Listen, just show one piece of evidence that points to the idea that what you said was true when you said that the 27th Amendment is what allowed for the Treasury to be the one that pays congressmen and senators. I've shown you the Constitution of the United States, which is the supreme law of the land, that declares definitively that you're incorrect. And I'm just simply asking, do you even have, I'd look for something to at least to help us understand how you came to your misunderstanding.
The arguments between George Washington and James Madison.
Post it in the chat.
I understand.
Post it in the chat.
If I may, I'm saying, you're asking, and I understand, there's an answer for everything. It's just that it may not be the answer that people will accept, but you have an answer. And it's okay, because I've been there too. Someone gives me an answer, I don't accept it. Until you give me the answer, I will accept it. Now, it's okay. I'm good with that.
With all due respect, listen, you're a very polite guy, and I feel bad. I'm torn between the fact that you can be civil and you're very polite, but you're just so fucking categorically wrong, and you're stubborn, and you won't even acknowledge the fact that what you're saying has no basis in reality. And so I'm torn between the fact that I'm I like how polite this guy is, and I like the fact that he defends his position despite the fact that he's incorrect. But then the fact that you're so goddamn ignorant, I don't know if I'm supposed to like you or just.
Well, I'll take that position. That's okay. So therefore, I'm in that realm of 50-50, and I'll take that. Jesus. But I will say this. I hear from you, there must be a right and a wrong. There is no, you got a line in the sand, and you're saying there's a right and a wrong.
No, I'm telling.
Am I hearing that, or you?
I'm telling you that there's a historical fact, and then there's you misunderstanding what you've read, and you come up with this position that you want to repeal. Look, dude, go ahead, get this 27th Amendment repealed, and then all that does is Congress gets to give themselves a raise while they're in office.
No.
That's all.
If we can continue, because I was, as you say, polite enough to listen, giving you the floor each time. But that's what I'm hearing. There has to be a right. There has to be a wrong. And then when you ask me exactly where this come from, and I tell you, now you're asking for evidence, I said, I'll get back to you, but you're still harping on this right and wrong, which then I'm trying to figure out that, actually you're becoming an interesting subject now to me, because I hear you saying it over and over and over, and even though I give you an answer, it's not one you want to accept. So now I'm going, okay, maybe we'll have to come back to this.
Okay, Gary, let me ask you something. Is there anything else that you champion as a cause other than the 27th Amendment? Is there anything else that you feel strongly about? Within our system, social injustice?
That's a great question. That's a great question. Because I would say the best way to approach anything is with one purpose, and then once that's done, you can go to another purpose, but only champion one. One thing about the systems that we have in the political world, and I think
what in the fuck?
Is that when you come to them with three things,
God, you gotta be shitting me.
they'll splinter you. You come with two, they'll segregate you. But when you come with one, and you have that type of line in the sand, we can make things happen. So that's a great question. Right now, it's a focus, military mindset, mission mindset, to focus on one thing. Something that people can understand, such as when you were saying, when you said the words will of a nation, that's powerful. Because it depends on how you kind of say it. And the more, yes, go ahead. So I think I answered your question though, right? One thing and one thing only. It's where you focus. It's a military mindset of precision, accuracy, and one mindset. that brings change.
And you know why military is like that? Because it's completely monopoly from government, controlled by government.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you. That was low.
Well, I think I'm in matrix. The reason why military works great because it's controlled only by government, monopoly.
Could you expand on that a little bit as to it being controlled by government monopoly?
There's no private sector. I mean, it's completely.
Okay, yes, I think you're going in and out, but I think I understand what you're saying. It's like a closed loop system. Is that what you're saying?
Alright, interview time. We're in Lake Geneva. It's actually beautiful. Look at the little tugboat.
I want to say I appreciate the opportunity. Look forward to discussing and bringing back a little bit more to hopefully add a little bit more depth to what I was saying about the state treasury and the federal treasury. But I appreciate your time. Really late, and I got to get to work. Thank you.
Got it. Okay. So, you know what's incredible about that, Abby, is that this guy genuinely, he has a misunderstanding about something that he read, and he's an activist to repeal an amendment that he doesn't understand.
I think this, honestly, this, as annoying as that was one of the more fascinating things ever. Because I've never seen somebody so passionate about something that they clearly misunderstand.
I mean, that's a hill he wants to die on, but, I gave him the opportunity to say there was something else, in the world, some other injustice.
You know the part I feel bad about is that, I was so fucking irritated with how, just ignorant he is, that I was growing impatient, but I think he's a sincere dude. I think he's just misunderstands it, and his politeness was incredible, especially with how impatient I was getting with him. There's a part of him that I really actually admire. It's funny, but he's just so fucking ignorant about the subject. It's just crazy. But he's also, I couldn't imagine being that fired up about something that I don't understand.
But it's so interesting because just pointing out the logic of it, that the actual expense that he's talking about is so incredibly insignificant. But when I asked the question about the staffing, because as I said, there's 8,000 at least staffers on the Hill, which might add up. I mean, it's still insignificant with respect to what a state budget is, but he couldn't answer that one, He's just harping on the 175,000.
Well, and what's funny is it's not even about an amount. All the 27th Amendment does is it just determines how soon, Congress can usher in a pay increase. And repealing it, if what he wants is more accountability, it does the exact opposite. It would allow Congress to just say, oh yeah, hey, pay me now. He just doesn't get it at all. I don't even know if there's any hope for that dude. That was weird. He's almost as dumb as Pamiri here.
But he was very polite.
He was. I almost want to walk back. If I could go back and do it over again, I would just, I wish I could have just stayed more composed and just said, okay, despite the fact that you clearly have no fucking idea what you're talking about, you're being polite. I mean, fuck. If everybody was as polite as him, this world would be a better place. I don't know. Maybe we should accept politeness and ignorance. I mean, it's probably a better package than some people offer here in Clubhouse. Something up.
I'm just wondering, we were just trying to get deep there, figuring out where he's coming from. Is he a states' rights guy? Like, what is he? I couldn't, that's what I couldn't.
You know what I'm trying to think is that I think this Gregory Watson guy inspired him, because as I started reading about it, it's fucking fascinating. 19-year-old student at University of Texas that gets a C on his paper saying that, hey, this amendment should still be alive, and the professor is saying, no, you don't understand it, and this kid was correct, and then after 200 years it ends up getting ratified. That's a fascinating story, and I think maybe what he wants is he wants his name in the history books as being the guy that revives the argument that was made 200 years ago, the losing argument, by the way, and brings it back for the repeal. But the part that I was stuck on was that he made the claim that that's how they were paid. Now, if he would have just said there's an argument that that's how they should have been paid, then he would have been consistent. But he was overstating his case at best. He was lying at worst.
I never think about the 27th Amendment.
I'm so blown away, man. You know what? It just goes to show, because when he first came up and he was talking about radical change and stuff, I'm thinking okay, he's probably, he's either a socialist or social justice or some shit. He's got some issue. I would have never, if you would have gave me a million guesses, I would have never guessed that his, cause that he wanted to champion was repealing the 27th Amendment. Very bizarre.
What do you guys think about dual citizenship in Congress? Is it good, bad?
There isn't any.
Is it? There
I just had to deal with this in another room. Let me say this again for the 50th time tonight. There is not a member of Congress. There is not a member of the Senate that, with respect to Israel, because that's what keeps getting raised, that has a dual citizenship. Not one. The highest ranking person in the United States government that was born in Israel is a U.S. attorney in one of the western states. That's it. There's no member of Congress. The only member of Congress, to my knowledge, that has dual citizenship is Ted Cruz, who has Canadian citizenship. But short of that, if you could point me to what in this 119th Congress we're in, could you tell me who has a dual citizenship? Oh, well, there's probably Ilhan Omar, who's Somali, unless you gave that up, and I don't know. So there could be a few others. But with respect to the trope, there is not, nor has there ever been a dual citizenship with Israel. So I hope that puts that one to bed.
I hear it first time. I don't know how many times you said it, but this first time I'm hearing it.
Pick it up.
But my point is it good or bad if they had do they have to?
People are born in other countries. I mean, as much as I despise Ilhan Omar, she was born in Somalia. I mean, they still have a right to serve in the Congress. They become U.S. citizens, and they run for Congress. They have that constitutional right. But I think you should Google how many right now. Again, I know Ted Cruz is, but maybe you could think of some. How do you feel about it?
I think if you become a federal official government employee, you should give up whatever citizenship you have and only have American.
So there is a law, because this happened to a friend of mine, actually, that if you become a diplomat from another nation, you have to give up your U.S. citizenship. We do have that law. So if you're a U.S. citizen and you become a citizen somewhere else and you become a diplomat, you have to renounce your U.S. citizenship. We do have that law. When that happens.
If I could, I would limit the number of years they serve in Congress. I would just put 2 terms, 4 years, and that's it.
Well, we do have limits on how long they can serve. We have elections, and the people decide if they want them to stay or to go. So the limits are there.
Yeah, there are limits, but somehow they serve for 30 years, 40 years.
No, this is fine, but that's because people chose that. Elections are potential term limits. We already have a system in place. And if the place that they represent wants them, then they should have the job, period. What if you had somebody great? Why would you want to set up a rule that says they have to go?
No, that's a good point, but I guarantee most of the Americans don't even know who is their representatives. What they sign every day, what bill they pass, they have no idea.
But Mary, this might be the most intelligent thing that you've ever said, ever. You're right. The average American doesn't know shit. They don't know their city council members. They don't know their mayor. They don't know their county representatives. They don't know anything. They don't know the state representative, federal representative. Like in fact, the average American is more familiar with the pseudo-celebrity Congress people that don't even live in their own state than the ones that represent them. So yeah, Amiri, I 100% agree with you. Americans are very uninformed on a lot of shit.
They know Super Bowl, they will not miss the Super Bowl, but the things that affects their lives, they don't know.
Right. I wish we could educate them. I wish I could educate everybody, like on basic facts, like the fact that Palestine doesn't exist.
Or exists.
Anyways, Liz, are you still with us, Mother? Is Adams awake? Is Ro here?
Yeah,
Kelly's
I'm here.
What's going on here?
I'm here, but I don't talk about the politics.
That is not true. You absolutely do.
I make fun of the politics. There's a difference. Like, you all will be all serious about 27th Amendment and who's an idiot. And I'm just sitting here going, this is weird.
I've actually been listening this whole time. I just noticed my phone signal was on now.
Interesting. Dr. Jordan, we talked earlier, you weren't here, but there's a new house that we're going to build, and you're going to be the head of it. I won't mention it here, but we'll talk privately.
Dr. Jordan, also, Roger was going to match us, but I think I'm too old.
Oh, that's true.
Not true. I just did I don't know your precise age, but I just did I have a spiritual